Hey Jess. Yeah, the marketing team is trying to do like a little contest drawing thing for the meeting tomorrow. If I just email you some names, would you be able to figure out how to just, choose a couple randomly? Sure thing. Hey, the VP found out what we were doing and he wants to have the whole company join in. So I got all those names for you. Thanks for taking this on. I really appreciate it. 4,000? Help me, Python script. You're my only hope. I have a randomwinner.py in my folder here. It's totally blank. I also have a JSON file that has just some random names and some other information, and the same thing in a CSV file. So we're going to be using those later, but let's go ahead and get started with setting up our file. So here's my boilerplate. So we're going to type in a description, choose a random winner from a list of names. Okay, so what we're going to be doing is getting a list of names. That's when they're inside of these square brackets. If we have a list of names, let's choose some random lucky winner, and we just want one winner. So I'm going to import random. This should be already available to you. I know it goes back as far as Python 3.5, so as long as you're at 3.5 or higher, you should be good to just go ahead and import this package. Now we can just go ahead and create our first function here. We're just going to say is choose a name. We're going to choose some random person from our list of names, and all I'm going to do, this is really easy actually, this is the easy part, return. So I'm going to go back and choose that random package, and there is a method in there called choice. And since it is singular, it's only going to choose one item from the list that you pass it in. So I'm going to pass in the name list, which we're going to get from the user. Let me zoom in just to make sure you're good to go. Okay, and so now what we're going to do is we can even just test it out right now. So we're going to add in just a random name list here. Let's just do A, B, and C for brevity. So if I then pass that in, I'm going to have it printed out so that we can see it on the terminal. And I'm just going to say choose a name. We're going to pass in that name list that we just barely made. And let's go ahead and run this. So Python 3, I'm not going to use an environment just because this is such a simple script. Random winner, and it chose B. So there we go. We have our first lucky winner. That is awesome, actually. So we have everything in place. Now we just need to be able to get our data, right? We need to get those names, and we want to do that in a somewhat efficient way. So yes, we could just, right now it totally works as is. You just update this list with the list of names in your contest or your team members, whatever, and it will choose your winner for you. However, we wanted to make this even more automated, so let's go ahead and figure out how to import this data from JSON files or maybe CSV files, depending on which one you have on hand. Let's start with JSON first. We're going to add JSON to our imports up here, and then, again, this should be free without any kind of extra installation, and we're going to create another function here so that we can open up our JSON files, grab the names and from the data that we've got, and then pass it into our random chooser. So define, we're going to get our names, and I'm going to specify that it's from JSON. That way it makes it really easy to just know exactly where the source is that we're getting from. I'm just going to have it pass in a file path so we can make this a little bit extensible. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to create just an empty name list, and I just want this there ready to go so that we can add names to it as we go. In order to start capturing our names from the JSON file that I've got, we're going to say with open we're going to choose that file path, set it as a data file variable. So what this is saying is we're going to create a new variable called data file that we can now use, and it's going to be whatever's inside of this file path. And so what we're going to do now is let's separate it down into the actual data, and we're going to do that by doing JSON.load, and we're going to load that data file because it is a JSON file. So let's go ahead and print out our data to see kind of what this is doing right now. I'm going to add down here, we're just going to comment this out for a second. We're going to say, go ahead and get names from JSON. And the way that I've set up my structure is inside of my scripts folder, which you have the random winner script right here, I have a folder called data. And inside of data, we have these two CSV and JSON files. So what I'm going to do is put in the relative file path, which would be data / and we need the people.json. A little tip for you if you're in Visual Studio Code is if you know where your file is, you can go ahead and right click on it and copy the relative path, and that will show you the same path that we just typed in. So now that we've got our file in place, let's go ahead and save and run this. And now we can see that our JSON file is now Python ready. Now I'm going to clean this up just a little bit because I want to just make it so it's super fast. We're just going to import our people, and as long as there is a name key, we're going to be able to run the script on basically anything. So let's get rid of this print statement. The first thing we need to note is that there is this higher level key called people. And so what we're going to do is we're just going to get rid of that altogether. We just want everything that's the list from here. And so we're going to take out a step by saying for person in data, and we're going to specifically go into the people key so that we only get those values that we want, because we don't want to have to mess around with everything else, especially if there are other keys and values in that. Maybe there are cars and something else. So we just want the people, and we're going to take our name list and we're going to append person, which is what we're looping over. So every person in that data, we are going to get the person's name. Finally, we are going to close our data file because we don't need this anymore. And lastly, let's return what we have got in our name list. Save. So now let's try this. Name list equals, and we're going to set it equal to what is returned from our get names from JSON. If I print that out, save it, and let's go ahead and run this script one more time, we can see now we have all of the contestants, if you will, that are ready to be chosen from our script, which is also really cool because now what we can do is if I take this from earlier, we're going to put this name list right into our choose name, and let's have it choose a lucky winner for Jason. And Mary C is the winner this time, so congratulations, Mary C. And that's how you can get people from the JSON file. So when you have a JSON file, as long as you change out the people key if you have something a little bit different, but as long as they have a name key and their name is right here as the value, we should be able to be pretty much ready to go with any JSON file. Put the file path in here and you should be able to choose your lucky random winner. All right, a lot of times we also have to deal with CSVs. Maybe it's from a spreadsheet that somebody gave you on the marketing team or what have you. So let's go ahead and add one more function that will get the people from a CSV file so that we can make this extra automated. Last thing I'm going to do up here in the imports is import CSV. That's another one of those library packages that we get for free with Python. I'm going to start again with another function, and I'm going to change it to CSV this time. Oops, file path. It's going to be fairly similar at the first, because we also want our name list here. And we are also going to say with open file path as data file, just like we had down in the JSON function. And now what we can do is set our data equal to, what we're going to do is we're going to use csv.reader. What that does is it reads in all of the information from the CSV file, and we're going to pass it in the data file because we want it to read that specific file. And then what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to put this whole thing inside of parentheses and make it a list. We want it to output as a list. It kind of makes it a little easier to work with as we're trying to take all of this content and put it into something that Python can manipulate. Now what we're going to do is one last little bit of housekeeping. So right now, if I were to print the data that we've got, let's take this out, change this to CSV. So if I were to just demonstrate what this is doing, if we've got our data here from the CSV reader, I'm going to print it out. So let's go ahead and run this one more time to see what it gives us. As you can see, there's a lot of this stuff. We have a list within a list. And so that's why we need to do just a little bit of modification to make this a little bit easier for us to handle. So what I'm going to do is back in our function, we're going to go row by row, because a CSV file is essentially a bunch of rows and a bunch of columns, right? It's a database. So what we're going to do is go row by row, and we're going to say for row in our data. And I'm just calling it row because that makes sense to me. If you notice, there actually is this none printing out, and so I want to get rid of that also before we add this. If the row, as long as it's not equal to none, then we'll go ahead and append the name list with that value. And what we want is row, we want the first item in that row. So since the name is the first item here, we want in this row, we want the first item, so it's going to be index of 0, which is what this means right here. So again, I'm going to go ahead and close our data file just for good measure. And then let's return the name list. If we go down here, we're going to go back here, and I'm actually just going to make it so that we can be shown based on what list they came from, whether it's JSON or CSV. So CSV list, we're going to say that's what we get from the get names from CSV function. And then I'm going to go ahead and print choose name from our CSV list. Let's save it and run this. And now Sam A is our lucky winner. Congratulations, Sam A. So let us do one more thing just to make this kind of fun. We're going to get our JSON. Make sure you change the extension. And we're going to say JSON lists. And I'm even going to just hurry and add a little bit of a differentiator here. Just like that. And now let's go ahead and run this script and get our 2 lucky winners. And here is a little mistake I got from just copying wildly here. We need to make sure we're using the correct function. So this is actually the JSON line, which is why I got this weird error here. So let's clear that out. So let's try this one last time. There we go. So our CSV winner is Kristen F, and Jason happens to be me. So that's awesome. You'll be able to find the source code for all of this, as well as other articles that are about automation in the workplace. Feel free to go to notdefined.tech in your browser, and we'll see you around on the next video.